Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on what time zone you're calling in from. I'd like to welcome you today to our ongoing Prospero education series. And today's focus is on reporting some of the top 10 features. So I'll spend just the first couple of minutes in PowerPoint just introducing some of the topics today along with the agenda and myself. And then the bulk of the time we're going to be looking at the product. Everybody is currently in a mute state, so the audio is cut off, but I'd like to take advantage of the questions area. If you have any throughout today's phone call, we'll definitely reserve the last several minutes of today's session for those, and usually maybe I'll about halfway see if there's any questions out there, so welcome one and all. All right, so let's just begin. I'll further introduce myself and today's topic. All right, my name is Derek Krebs. I'm a senior consultant with the MSX group, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time. So going on 25 years now, I've been a consultant. Of those 25 years, 15 of those years, I and the entire MSX group team and staff, we all started at FRX Software way back when. We helped develop, implement, and support their flagship products of Microsoft FRX and Forecaster, respectively, for reporting and budgeting. And so we internally worked there for many, many years, delivering those products to the world. And as we got acquired by Microsoft 10 years ago, we got spun off as the MSX group. And at that point in time, we thankfully took development of those products back underneath our belt and released Prospero. So what used to be maybe two separate programs for the reporting and budgeting and double your work and double the processes now is one cohesive product, Prospero. So thank you one and all for attending. And today's sessions are a little multifaceted. Primarily, we want to educate our existing customers and partners. So that'll be a bulk of the attendees we normally have in these sessions, but twofold. We also have a lot of our existing FRX Forecaster and Manage Reporter customers and partners that we've trained and still maybe support today. So those may be prospective Prospero customers. So I'll shed a little bit of light on maybe some knowledge that might be new to some of you or maybe some experienced topics, but each session, usually there's a lot of good tidbits that you'll be able to take away today. We do record these, so usually a couple of days after today's session, I'll send a nice little email thank you for all the people that attended and or registered, providing you an email link to where you can maybe look later at these recordings. And then additionally, let me just take a quick moment. I'll probably wrap up today's session of doing so is probably the website you initially went to register for today's webinar. The website msxgroup.com. And what I'd also like to personally do is invite you to our fall forum. So twice a year, we have 2 full days of product training going on about maybe 7 hours. That is CPE credit eligible for those CPAs also in attendance. So here's briefly a further reminder of that. Yeah, you might have got an email newsletter recently for such. That is next week on September 22nd and 23rd. The first day is going to be devoted to the Microsoft products of Manage Reporter and Forecaster for those maybe that are still utilizing it or those products. And secondly, that second day, September 23rd, it will be focused to Prospero. So today's just going to be a 1-hour session of the top 10 features that I've sort of personally favored along with the customers. But in that day 2 for Prospero, we have full maybe 7 sessions, hourly length, also recorded. So hopefully you can join us for those days. Now back to the PowerPoint. I'll only spend about another 2 or 3 minutes and such. I want to, for those especially prospective people that might not be an existing customer, I just want to give you a quick reminder that yes, Prospero does both the financial reporting and budgeting. It primarily will grab data from your general ledger, companies, location departments, what I call your general ledger segments or dimensions. But thankfully, Prospero has a very robust data warehouse where you can report on both GL data and non-general ledger data. Examples might be statistics like headcount, units sold, margins, and other key performance indicators. So I'll be doing a session later today, a little bit more budget focused, where we're going to incorporate some of those driver-based modeling. So hopefully you're going to join us for that, or maybe see a future recording of such. And then thankfully it does all the bells and whistles in your reporting and budgeting process. Easy report distribution, graphing, drill down to account transaction detail, and good old migration from manager reporter and forecaster, which is a huge win and differentiator to save a lot of time and money efforts here. Briefly on the reporting side, yep, almost any statements and manageable, income statement, balance sheet, cash flows, trial balances, audit reports. So let's use the easy button. Let's no longer do it manually or offline, as still to this day, after so many years, I still see people doing the old-fashioned way. So hopefully today I'll further share some efficiencies on how you can automate your processes there. And then a final little note on the budgeting side. Most people are using what we call Excel hell to get away from all those spreadsheet pain points in budgeting. So Prospero has a very nice budgeting capability. It uses the same cookie cutter row approach where you can just use one template across all your location departments. So quick little blurb on that. And finally, last slide or two is just going to set further the agenda of today. And really what we did is we took a little poll of not only our consultants and customers over the years, we've gathered some of our top 10 sort of best of, as we compared Prospero to maybe some past processes. Like a lot of times I'll reference the good old FRX and Manager Porter days and products, how maybe things were done previously, or many might have been done sort of offline in Excel. So a lot of times these will reference the old, inefficient, painful ways and the new ways. Now the first 5 is on this first slide of 2. First and foremost, I'm a huge fan of the line, column, and tree approach to creating reports, meaning this is not an Excel add-in. Actually, I use and work with many of those today, but I think the rows, columns, or trees are so much more advantageous, interchangeable. You can do easy report inventories and reuse those across all of your reports. Secondly, we're going to today familiarize yourself further with what we call summary accounts. Like I might have total revenue or total expense, and then I can expand upon those to usually reduce and oftentimes avoid any report maintenance as new accounts get added. Third, there's going to be a nice efficient ways to electronically and securely and with drill down provide our financial data to our users or management. So we have areas or topics like published reports or report repository. Additionally, what is called a report collection. So at month end, you might have multiple reports. Let's call them 3, like an income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. I might then lump all those reports into one cohesive report collection and run them all in one fell swoop. And additionally, I can annotate, meaning add some financial footnotes and collaborate with my other users and stakeholders efficiently of maybe variances to budget or maybe why I'm budgeting certain amounts. Fourth agenda item is I'm very fond of always analyzing easily data. So Prospero lends itself to that, where we have drill down, previously noted like to account transaction level. Additionally, what we call drill order. If I have multi-company or multiple location department, maybe I want to drill first into company, secondly into department, or maybe I want to change that drill order on the fly, which in the past you had to usually have 2, 3, or 4 separate reports using different trees or different filters to accomplish now what one Prospero report now can do for you. And there's also a nice full account detail report. So if you're ever doing any audit and reconciliation, which usually is every week and month, and maybe during that annual audit time, there's nice capabilities for such. Fifth bullet point, and all of those years using the Microsoft products, there's really no easy and robust graphing ability. So thankfully, we now have development back underneath their control and being developed, unlike the Microsoft stack, no longer having any new features or development or support winding down for those. And you're also able to drill into those graphs and change the report view from maybe graph to seeing some of the report data. I'll illustrate that further. And finally, the last 6 through 10 items for those that are dealing with multi-company, which oftentimes is very common this day and age. Very easy ways to do multi-company consolidations with a breeze. Seventh item, even though we're going to try to leverage our electronic viewer or workspace to view and consume and annotate or drill down and graph the report, people will always probably want to take it to Excel, PDF, and printer. So during those days with FRX, then when we transitioned to Manager Porter, Microsoft removed a lot of those capabilities, but thankfully we've brought those now back into Prospero, some of those export items. Eighth item, maybe another note regarding the robust data warehouse. So possibilities are endless of what data you wish to report off of. So think outside the box on some other key performance indicators like headcount, number of units sold. That way you have a lot of better metrics behind your financial data where areas are doing good or bad to act upon. Ninth item, we always phrase that Prospero was created by accountants for accountants. So there's going to be very user-friendly security. And the second phrase is with little or no IT involvement. All we need is about 1 hour of IT's time to install the product. Otherwise, the accounting team, it's accounting function, so you're going to take control of that process. So you don't need costly consultants or additional devoted IT staff to help you on that regard. And lastly, for those people that are still maybe using FRX and Manager Porter, and I should also say Forecaster in that realm, there's awesome ability to take all of your existing reports, convert them into Prospero. However, usually instead of the old way, meaning an income statement detail that might have 50 individual revenue expense accounts, we'll probably design them better in Prospero to use those summary accounts and expand. So that saves you huge costs, so no need to reinvent the wheel. So that's one of our biggest praises from our customer base and partner base on Prospero. So without further ado, I'm going to now jump in the application. So thanks for letting me lay the stage for today's topics. I do have a couple of sessions of Prospero open, one as an end user and secondly a power user. Let me even start with the end user. I'll even take one minor step back because sometimes in our good old presentations, we make remarks like, hey, you can have a hybrid approach based on your IT or partner preference of how you want to deploy Prospero. We simply have a client application like you see there in the background. And secondly, we have a SQL database or data warehouse that stores not only your GL data, but non-GL data and budget, to repeat a couple of key concepts there. And these little layers, meaning the client or the database, they could all or both reside on your servers, or very common this day and age, I might have for my general ledger a third party hosting my general ledger systems and databases these days, where I can easily have Prospero link and grab from that. And then maybe the Prospero database and application are on your servers. Or third and finally, we even host several of our clients' Prospero instances like the database or client. So even you can have a hybrid model of those. So there's just a couple of IT remarks that I'll throw out there. And additionally, we can use Windows Authentication or standard. Windows basically means in accounting talk that, hey, every morning I log into the network with my Windows user, which translated another way means I don't have to, with Windows users, I do not have to set up or maintain separate user IDs and passwords. It just leverages my Windows network security. However, you might have some standard users like board of director, banker that maybe on a rare case you might give access to, so that's always an option. Now, when I do log into this client application, we typically have a nice quick launch area of perhaps your favorites. With a one click, you can open up here like reports and charts. Secondly, if it were budget time of the year, I might open up budget version 1, my base case budget, or budget version 2, my worst case budget, or quarter 1 forecast or quarter 2 based on your timing of those different budget projections. And a third shortcut after those first two, like reports and charts being one, or my different budget input versions being a second, we also have report collections that I could then open up in all one fell swoop. And let me even show you that briefly. I am logged in now. I just opened up a report collection which might be a group of, let's say, 4 whatever reports. We are currently looking at the electronic workspace of different windows that I have, and you have some nice options to show these in tabular form or even vertically or side by side with one another. And I could open up and expand these, which I'll do so a little bit later here, to quote unquote interact with them, meaning drill down, add some financial footnotes, change it to a graph and so forth. But there's one glimpse of a report collection or slash dashboard that I'm all viewing on one particular screen. And let me just share with you briefly, under this window option, you have a couple of options here available, because normally I might prefer what we call grouping tabs. Now, if I change it to grouping tabs, this is probably a look and feel that most of you are used to seeing. Here's what I'll call report number 1, or maybe report number 2 shown graphically, etc. And then I can come up here and say, instead of grouping tabs, I might say no tabs. And like other Windows applications, I'm still in this one Windows area, as I was just showing you this first field. Here is where perhaps you could side by side a couple of windows. Like these couple of windows that I have open, you could vertically or horizontally show those side by side. If you want to multitask and maybe compare some balance sheet versus income statement or my graph. And at any point in time, I can also expand any one of these items, drill into it, because this might be a revenue trend for this year. Now, speaking of, I'm now going to transition to one of my next topics, just generally what we call drill down and drill order. And what I'm going to do is, I have another session open that I have a little bit more playground I can play around with without tampering some of our other information that we demonstrate with. So I'm going to come here briefly, and I've noticed here I'm logged in as administrator. The end user, which I might bounce back to for just a quick moment. The end user, which I'm now broadcasting, yes, they normally will open up the quick launch with a one-click, maybe their budget versus actual report here. Or how about report number 2, a rolling 12-month, or whatever we want to call it. So they have very few links here. I'm going to spend more time looking at this published reports, but a couple of quick remarks here is they can be folder driven in any fashion, like dates 2019 or 2020, maybe the months within. Or another way I see clients and myself maybe grouping it by the recipient, like here might be my board of director reports versus managers, or maybe time driven, like here's my monthly reports versus quarterly and year-end one. So possibilities are endless. We can even have multiple levels of these folders, which sometimes the old FRX and Manager Reporter did not even have, or very limited in that regard. If it were that time of budget input, maybe a second link, they might not even see it, your end user, if they do not have any budgeting ability. Now, we actually have multiple budget versions, but this user only gets to see maybe what I'll call the base case budget. And one little remark on security, just to set the stage for additional remarks I'll make today, is I'm now via the quick launch with a one click, I'm now opening up this report, because security related, like by accountants for accountants, this user might be limited of what companies they see within this pick list. Secondly, and especially for this user, for our different locations, I'm going to role play that I'm the Denver manager. Therefore, I only have the Denver location seen within this pick list for locations. This normally might be recognized from the last time I chose it, but I was logged in as administrator earlier and chose a different location. That's why I did not remember it, but normally it would, based on, and limits based on your assignments, as we call that, meaning I might be assigned only a single or multiple companies, or assigned only certain locations. Now, finally, as we look at the department, one of the key concepts today is just going to be talking generally about our robust and flexible trees. When I actually look at departments, like for my Denver location, I get access to all departments like you see in this list view. But here in the lower left, we have a nice selection tree, what I call a graphical view of our data. And then what I love about Prospero, along with our customers could reiterate that, is out of the box, which means when we get Prospero, we don't have to do this, nor we do not have to maintain what is called the all tree. This all tree automatically gets created and automatically gets maintained, meaning if I add a new department, I don't have to update the trees like in all of your past FRX and Manager Portal world you always had to continually manually do and reconcile and make sure that's the case. I'll further talk about trees, especially maybe trees you might want to custom tailor to have maybe certain subgroups needed within your organization, like for regions or different management responsibility. And then when I open up this report, speaking of the drill down to account and transaction level, let's just take a peek at it. And basically, I'm going to paraphrase this report as really having 3 levels to it. Level 1 is what we call the financial level, level 2, the account level, and level 3, transaction. All right, so let's just see on this production supplies, I see some actual spend. Now, if I drill into it, this is now level 2, my account level detail. Sometimes it might be more than one line, but it's only one general ledger account and department really that I'm looking at for a little ease of this illustration, but it might be multiple lines I see. Now, secondly, after the account level detail, if I had ran the report with transaction level, I now see that transaction level. And notice here some additional columns showed now when I view the transaction level, like vendor, customer, or what batch number, posting date, etc. And then I so happen maybe in our little sample database chose an item that did not have any vendor or customer information, but usually a lot of times we shy away from true names like customer ABC and we use some numeric vendors to protect confidentiality of some of them. Now with any one of these levels, I do not have to have general ledger access because this is all the transaction level contained within this report. That's a common question that I get, like, Derek, does the person need general ledger access? No, all they have to do is be a Prospero user to be able to see this account transaction level and be able to maybe further interact with it. And that word interact, emphasizing a little bit, because that might be 3 or 4 bullet points now that I'll segue to. One would be the graphing ability. Secondly, the annotation or adding notes to my reports and or budgets. And maybe third being the export ability nature. First of those 3 items, and maybe top 10 is, all right, we see maybe some variances actual to budget. Well, why did that occur? Instead of me picking up the phone, looking at separate emails or documents, well, notice here in this icon indicator, this is a note for the account. I can put my cursor anywhere on this account and notice to the right, I have this annotations area because in the toolbar, I usually have this check mark turned on to show that annotations there to the right as I'm turning it off and on. And many times I don't want to clutter my screen as I'm maybe consuming and analyzing the data. So frequently you'll see us auto hide the annotations, just like I can now hover on top of it and I can thumbtack and no longer auto hide. It gives me a time date stamp, like on this date and this time. This user called Manager 1, otherwise I'd say Bob Jones or Sally Smith, added this note. And I might be the CFO. Maybe I reviewed their note like, hey, great, I was better than variance. I added a new customer. And then maybe Derek comes up here and adds an additional note as CFO, which I'll then just do a generic note along with it. So once again, you'll nice have collaboration behind that. I'm still logged in as the Manager 1 user, but you can sort of see how it gives me a time date stamp of which user I'm logged in as. The next thing of those 3 or 4 bullet points was the ability to display this as a chart. And I'm even going to go now back to my Power Administrator user because I have more visibility behind our report data. So I'm going to open up that same report here through my reports area. Now the only thing different is when I as the power user or administrator logs in as a designer, I'm going to be able to see the very nice line and column being used. I'll simply run this report. And this, if you have a user that has report run privileges, if again you have report run privileges, you're going to see some items here to the right, like report date, and below, like should I include transaction detail, yes or no? Or where do I want to output? Yes, normally to the workspace, but I can output to the printer, Excel, PDF, or to the publish reports area. I was just consuming a report in as that maybe manager one user. Because at month end, whenever I close the books, I can simply run the report for all companies, all locations, all departments, meaning one time I'm doing it for everybody, all my general ledger companies and segments. And then once I click OK to render the report, all I have to do is one final click because, yep, I just did journal entries this morning. I'm reviewing the data. These final figures look good. And then you see here on the toolbar, if, again, you have the security privilege to publish a report, like earlier we were talking about running reports, then, yep, I can again come up here and publish it. It will ask me what folder to put it into. And then I can simply click OK, and I'll get a message that said publish successfully. I'll save some of those clicks for a maybe future iteration here. Now, I do want to talk about one other thing. That was the graph and drill down order. Now with graphs, I'm going to have a little bit more fun now, logged in as an administrator. You probably saw me click a icon on the toolbar to display this as a chart, and I'll go back and emphasize that click I just did. Show us the chart, which then opened up this tab here to the right, and we call this three-dimensional and interactive because here is maybe 3 columns of actual prior year and budget, and then maybe multiple rows of revenue or expense based on how you have your report laid out. And then additionally interactive because I'm going to take one of these pie nodes, like here in blue, our revenue. I'm going to drill into it. And this is what we call the drill order. Notice here my legend to the right. I have a few options here of showing the legend here to the right or at the bottom. Do I want to see daily levels, yes or no? I can maybe combine little small slicer amounts because maybe anything smaller than 5% or $5,000 I don't want to see to convolute or make the graph more complex than it has to be. And those are some of these settings on the layout tab. I'm not going to demonstrate all, but I'll call out a few of those by name just then. Now, what I did again was I drilled into our revenue row, and I'm now seeing this graphically by my first drill down using what we call tree levels, which maybe I want to go first into company, then secondly into location, companies like US, Europe elimination. Now, at any point in time, I'm currently in the graph view, but what I can easily do is revert back to the report view, meaning again, instead of the graphical view, this is my revenue across multiple columns, meaning actual prior year budget. I know that seems simple and trivial, but that's another great thing that I love because a lot of other products that I work with, even today, some other reporting and budgeting applications, I cannot drill in across multiple columns and rows. It's usually a single cell only, which I'm like, bummer. That doesn't give me the drill down I'm hoping and expecting to see. So very nice thing. And if I were to come up here and export this to Excel, I would get a simple prompt like, hey, what file name and where do you want to save it? And to speed things up in today's session, I've already done that for us. That is, I'll even do that right now. It just takes a second. Now there in the background, this is what I'm going to call a one-dimensional graph, meaning it's not by multiple location or departments. Still, everything you see there in the background, what we call the workspace, is now going to render Excel. So if I wanted to further share this with you, my manager, CFO, banker, or whomever, this is one easy way to do so. And notice here the Excel sheet, that's why I call it one-dimensional, since it's only sort of one screen I drilled into. Now I have 2 other examples to this export to Excel. One would be here, we're looking at maybe an income statement, the same one, but where I'm exporting out multiple locations. Like here is in my tree, the all location. Maybe here's Miami service, Miami operations, San Francisco, etc. So another option for distributing it. However, I usually favor, and you have more robust, secure, compliant Sarbanes-Oxley drill down, etc., real time if you're a Prospero license user. But if not, these are always means to get some financial data to your other recipients there. And how about finally, when I mentioned earlier, I might have a report collection that might be a group of reports. So now we're seeing a report collection of 3 reports. Like at month end, here's my income statement, or sheet number 2 is report number 2 for the balance sheet, or here is now sheet or report number 3 for the cash flow. And let me just do one little side step showing you inside the application. We have this area what is called report collections, and super easy and powerful. I'm just going to open up an existing one, but to create a new report collection, we have this button here within the report collection area for a new, or I can also right mouse click for a new, just like the icon to the left is a toolbar icon you can utilize based on your preference. Over here to the right, in this particular report collection, we have 6 reports. And all you have to do when you create a new report collection is you have the add button to add reports, or maybe the remove button to remove reports. Then you could run these all for a certain period in year. And then on the output tab, you have maybe the same type of options, sending it out to the electronic workspace, what I call the viewer, Excel, printer, PDF, or maybe publish reports. Maybe I want to output it to the publish report area, and then maybe the folder below might be a certain folder that I'm going to zoom into. Down below, after choosing publish reports, maybe these are now my March reports that I'm randomly choosing that I want these to be output to. So that way I can maybe store and archive different monthly reports very efficiently. And now if I run this, it will run all of those multiple reports, output it to my predefined output, which I'll leave up just for a second. All right, I know I'm trying to kill a couple birds with the same stone today on some topics there. So there's a further overview of report collections. I'll then close this out. I want to get back to that graph earlier, and I want to emphasize now my drill order and the ability to change it on the fly. And what I'll do for this example is I'm going to drill into sales. Once again, my first drill down using what we call tree levels is my company, US, Europe, etc. Now my second click or preference, and usually you can predefine this, is the location, like Miami, San Francisco, Denver, as I drilled into maybe my US company. Now, as I close these out, not to have too much clutter open here, the key thing here is change the drill order. First, it was company, second location, third department, but how about randomly? I'm going to drag location to the top, just like this sentence reads. I can drag and drop my different segments in whatever order. What we also added was a recent product new feature to throw in account level detail anywhere in between, because there might be some segments like natural. Maybe that doesn't give me an extra bang for my buck when I'm drilling it in, because in the background, maybe my line set already breaks it down by natural. So maybe I want to move account level detail above that. That way I can see the account and transaction level and sort of negates my natural accounts, which are already broken out line by line, one account. Now, some of you might not see this account level detail, because I'd say that's probably a new feature added within the last 6 months or so. So a couple takeaways from that is great. I love how we have new features in development application, unlike the Microsoft Stack had no new features in the last 6 to 8 years. So we at least have about quarterly updates to get not only new features, but bug fixes, but mostly new features. Great development and testing teams there. And let me now go ahead and click OK. So instead of company first, location second, I there on the fly change the drill order to now location first and maybe company second. And then historically, like using FRX, Manager Reporter, or Forecaster, I would usually have to have a second, third, or fourth report that accomplishes now what one report can do, changing the drill order, which sometimes I like to retrace my click just for further review. One other item related to that, when I look at this financial report, let's say I wanted to do some month-end or audit reconciliation. Another new feature added within the last 6 or so months is this button here called the Full Account Detail View. Now, when I click on this Full Account Detail View, what it's basically going to do is, for whatever report information I've rendered, in this case, all companies, all division, all departments, it's going to render all that information. And I'm just getting a little warning saying, hey, it might take a little extra long to produce this, but I'll say yes to continue. So instead of drilling just into sales, and on one tab only seeing sales, or drilling into expenses, only on a second tab only seeing expenses, this is where now all the full account detail is going to be rendered on maybe one screen or one tab. If you have any hidden lines or columns, I could show that, because maybe the best of both worlds is maybe at times I want to see the account number, or maybe during other presentation or report review, maybe I don't want to. So here are very useful icons as I'm peppering maybe a favorite features 15 through 20, even though I'm still focusing the top 10 here. And secondly, I might have some hidden lines there. If I have maybe months instead of a single quarter being shown, I might have hidden columns like the account number shown. So there's a few examples I've seen where I've leveraged such. And then if I wanted to send this to Excel, PDF, etc., and let me even just share this PDF with you. I have one already previously open. This is just an income statement across our multiple locations here, or companies. So here's page 1. On my tree, I'm looking at all company and locations. Or as I page down, here's maybe the US company, page 3, company number 2 or location 2, etc. So another efficient way to disseminate the data with all the formatting, presentation, even though this does not have a lot like some of our bolding, underlines, colors. You can get fancy as you wish on these reports. Hey, let me return back to this report. That was some of the drill down, drill order, graphing. What I'll now like to do is let's look a little bit at the line set and trees on what we call the expand feature. Let me show the hidden columns once again of this report. Here's an example where I call this our income statement detail. Like for expenses, what I'm highlighting to emphasize is this account that we can name anything we want. We're calling it EXPN with a description total expenses. Above this row, we're showing a certain number of detail or levels of this summary account tree. And the line set that I'll now take you to, in your former FRX and Manager Porter worlds or whatever other products you had, usually you had to individually list those accounts, which by all means, up above, we can do individual accounts or ranges, like 4,000 to 44.99 being a range, but better yet, we're going to leverage and use what we call these summary accounts. Now, most of your line sets will simply have your natural account segment only in it. And if I expand upon this little cell, this is a pick list of our natural account segment, either graphically in our trees or maybe our good old list view. Like here might be all of my expenses that begin with a 6. But what I'm going to do again is I'm going to open up this using the tree or graphical view. And most of you will only have sort of one primary master tree. That includes not only balance sheet, but income statement. But in our demonstration database, we have a few different ones like cash flow specific, where maybe bonuses or depreciation might be excluded. But I'm going to focus on our one single master tree called net income. That expense node, again, you can name it anything you wish. And then in a tree, perhaps if you have a nice clean chart of accounts, you don't have to have it, but in our tree, it's all of our range of accounts 6,000 to 7,999. Or in other words, I do not have to update this account tree as new accounts get added. Great. I do not have to update this line set. That's used maybe for both my report, but also this could be used for my budget input. That might be a later session you'll see budgeting focus. Great. I don't have to maintain my line sets as new accounts get added. And maybe third, I'm going to repeat that we have that automatic all tree. And let me just show you another example to that, because earlier I was showing you department, like that one user had access to all departments, but only a certain location. So in the line set that I'm in, and this also applies to the column definition, if I wanted to filter companies side by side in my columns, or in my columns showing locations side by side, I could do so. But now I'm demonstrating in my line set, turning on additional filters, because maybe I want to have company 1 revenue on this line versus company 2 revenue on this line. So I've easily added an additional filter based on how I want to lay out and filter that data. What I wanted to emphasize again was on some of our location tree and node. Now here again, the same type of story, but worth repeating. The automatic all tree, automatically created out of the box to do nothing and automatically maintained. So awesome. Saves you again a lot of tedious manual efforts in years past. Now, secondly, we might have trees that you might want to custom tailor. Like here's our regional one. Actually, I reside in San Diego, California. So how about I might be, let's say, the Midwest manager. So maybe my Midwest locations are those that begin with a 4. Same type of phrase. When I'm using a Ranger wildcard, I might not have to update the tree, nor when I bounce over to security a little bit from now. Maybe Derek's in charge of all Midwest, so I don't have to change Derek's user security responsibility, nor if Derek leaves the organization or has maybe additional or less manager responsibility. In the former manager porter, we always called manager porter inefficient and decentralized security, where you had to go into manager porter to all your different folders in your repository and publish report area, secure every individual folder in manager porter, stunk. Also in manager porter was inefficient because you had to go to all your trees and all your tree units to individually secure those, which many times people had many trees and many units of the tree. So all that's gone and wayside. So another huge improvement is the good old security. And let me even bounce to that for a little segue. By accountants for accountants. So I don't need my IT team doing this, just like I'm coaching and training you. I'm under security. Here's my different users. That's really the only area I need to enter into. And what you see here to the right are what we call roles or groups. Like, yeah, Derek might be within the administrator group. I might have some designers, meaning in the accounting area, that maybe create and edit reports, maybe run them. But there might be a bulk of my managers who are viewers. And let's look briefly at this user called Business Analyst East. This is what we call a standard generic user, but usually you have your Windows users, like here is your domain, your network name, followed by your network user ID, just to repeat that. But this generic user we use for demonstration purposes. The key thing is twofold. One would be what assignments, meaning what company locations they have, and secondly, visibility, meaning can they see all reports, maybe one option, or maybe only certain ones, like only the income statement actual budget, or maybe a second one, income statement rolling 12 month. Maybe they don't have visibility to the balance sheet nor the cash flow. Now let me repeat those two items. First is what we call assignments. So this user and this button for assignments. Now many times you don't need so many lines here. But what we got was very granular with all the locations that they have access to. The reason why I mentioned you don't need so many lines is here is where Derek, when I was talking about the location earlier, and I'm just going to click on the insert button down below, Derek might get not only 4,200, but Derek might get all the 4 prefixed locations. And I'm just really turning this to the list view here. All right, so in addition to 4,200 there in the background, maybe Derek gets location 2, 3, 4, etc. within the Midwest. So Yeah, you could do this, but that's the inefficient way to do individual items. So I'm just going to come up here and delete that bottom line. And better yet, let's say Derek, instead of a single location, and instead of this list showing both posting and summary level, I'm just going to go back to this Midwest summary level via looking again graphically at my tree. All right, so here Derek might get a certain level of the node, and I'm just going to pick on this little one that I have found in front of me. And if I take you to the trees where you create and maintain those, especially if you want any uniquenesses to yours, let me just take a brief moment to do so, because you have very easy ranges and wildcards and super easy drag and drop. So on our trees, we looked earlier at our natural account one, like our single and only net income that most have. That includes balance sheet as well. But what I'm going to do is briefly look at our location tree by region. Well, if you have good clean chart of accounts, there's where I said maybe Midwest is all the 4 series, but if not, you can do individual items and drag and drop. So let's say, all right, Derek, maybe one person left. Derek's now picking up San Francisco, Seattle. So literally in seconds, I drag and drop these as I'm going to move them back. Otherwise, in the Excel world or some other applications, Microsoft Stack, that'd probably take me a few hours, especially on the budget side, which again, maybe join us for a budget focused one, but there's a brief acquaintance with trees. Now, when working with trees, very user friendly, I'll just maybe summarize a step or two. That is, if you want to create any new summaries, you simply click on the insert button, you give it a name. Like here at the very top, we call this total region at the top, or maybe 1,000 for all my East or 2,000. I personally like using alphabetic ones that differentiate from maybe my numeric ones that I'm posting to in the general ledger, but any name goes as long as it sort of matches your segment length and so forth there. And then secondly, I was just talking about inserting maybe a new summary, which would be this button down here. But here is what I call onesie twosie, and this is an awesome checks and balances now. Because in this tree that I custom tailored for my management responsibility and regions, notice when I inserted, I'm seeing one of my numerical general ledger posting locations that is orphaned and is missing. So this is great checks and balances. As I come up here and add it, I'm going to do the same thing. Right mouse click insert, and now I no longer see any numerical general ledger posting items, which means great. My tree includes everybody. It's not required to, but yes, we recommend do so. And secondly, Prospero, as a great checks and balances, it prevents me from having duplicates. Now, I can't tell you how many times in some past FRX and Manager Porter trees I've caught problems to it. Now, easily you can remedy in seconds, usually within only one master tree that you mainly have, but you can have as many different trees as you wish. All right, let me just close out a couple of items here. I'm going to look back to some of my original notes. One I want to maybe further describe is multi-company consolidation. Let me just show you an Excel graphic to some of your painful former ways. That is, in your good old FRX and Manager Porter trees, one of our issues that we continually had was we had to have every department and every company combination in a tree wherever they applied. Meaning, here's maybe department 1, sales department. Maybe I have 5 companies that I have the sales department in. So I had to have a tree that had at least these 6 units for department A, sales. Then maybe I had a second department, operations, that was also in my multi-company. So you had to have a very large, painful tree. If you add a new company and or department, you had to continually update and maintain those. And I'm even feeling pain points for all the customers I've trained and helped, where that was such a tedious thing and million-dollar mistakes I found so many times. Where, once again in Prospero, we have basically the ability where I can quote-unquote wildcard the company. The good old all tree, or I could break it to my companies into, let's say, the US companies or European companies as you see fit. So there's a little sketch of an ugly old FRX or Manager Porter tree. And then I'll go back to this report. And basically what I'm going to do is change the prompt. So I'm currently rendering this report for all companies in all locations. If I come up here and click this button called Reopen the Report, let me also demonstrate something that, hey, if I wanted to see all companies, what I'm going to do is manually choose these additional ones, like company 1 and company 2, because I have already the all company open. Now that was very painless, meaning usually I'm drilling down, like in the background, I'm drilling from my top of all companies or all locations downward, leveraging again count transaction to drill order. But if I wanted to see these individually, I then just manually chose company 1 and 2. And then another new feature we added within the last 6 or so months is this field here where I can automatically predefine who I want to render and run the report for. So instead of me manually choosing company 1 and 2, I could come up here and point to a line set. And notice my report prompts, like in this case, company location department. Well, I could have in the line set the good old company location department, but maybe only the company expanded. Because earlier we talked about the expenses being expanded, like they're in the background for the report, but I could have a line set that simply expands on company, using the all company and expand, meaning one line set, expand all companies, which once again means I don't have to update the tree, nor quote unquote the line set or tree that I'm using down below for my report prompt. So I'll probably just save time. I'll at least just reference this little field here for my line definition for the report prompts. I'll continue choosing that company 1 and 2 as I click OK. It'll be just a moment because I'm in San Diego. We have all of our servers out in the East Coast that I'm now fighting bandwidth along with my kids at home now here in California. We're all online here, so we're scolding some of our internet speeds at times. Now in just a second, you're going to see tab 2 for Europe or tab 3 US now opened. So here is where I can now officially bounce to all companies, drill in, or company 1, company 2, and just going full circle back to maybe the Excel or PDF. That's where we saw it basically in this flavor, Excel or PDF. All right, so as I'm going to start winding down the next 5 to 7 minutes, let me open up the question area just in case I see any questions that have come through the queue. I do not currently, so what I'll do is let me at least pull up my email contact. So if you have any follow-up questions, if you're a tad shy to address those. All right. So again, I'll just pause just for a second. Feel free to take advantage of the questions here if you have any. You also can raise your hand if you think it's some verbal question you'd rather me address online for interactive. And then my email address you see there in the bottom right of that slide, derek.krebs@msxgroup.com. And I take it to heart to bring the easy button to you, so don't be shy. I'd be glad to help with any other product questions. And most of the customers I see, or attendees, are existing Prospero customers. So again, thanks for joining us. And secondly, I see a handful are not existing Prospero customers. Maybe we've helped you in the past on some of the Microsoft stack or others. So one takeaway for those that are not existing Prospero customers, if you want to see a little one-on-one demonstration with your team, we also have a free trial version of Prospero that maybe many of the existing customers on this line took advantage of. That way you can test, get a head start in your implementation free on our dime to do so. There's my little concluding remarks and a big thank you. Otherwise, again, I might just hang on the line just for another moment or two. I'm looking back to a couple of my notes here just to see if there's any last little remarks or two. A couple other items to maybe add here, what I call sort of some house cleaning items, is in Prospero and throughout today, I mentioned, oh, that was a new feature coming from maybe customer feedback. So on the home ribbon, there's maybe two things I want to call your attention to. One would be the online help. Secondly, maybe the message board. And third, the feedback and support. Let me start with the latter, feedback and support. And this is what I call a red hotline into our support and product development team. And it really could be either a product suggestion like, hey, MSX group, I'd love to see this inside Prospero for a new feature. So a lot of those that I quoted today have come from our customer feedback. So we welcome always your suggestions. And secondly, these two buttons to the right sort of accomplish the same thing. If you think there's an issue or you want to have a support request, you don't have to pick up the old-fashioned phone. You don't have to email support@msxgroup.com, but easy support@msxgroup.com if you have any assistance needed. And then usually your implementation consultant can help you out. I see personally I've implemented a large group of people in today's phone call, but your implementation consultant could also help you on any design questions that you have, but always an open door policy for such. Let me circle back to this message board out on our website, msxgroup.com. We are slowly amassing some sort of how-to. Well, you probably saw in today's session, maybe these recorded sessions, 1 hour or less, great on maybe some topic-driven items. So look again for those in the future, but we would put out some various little articles of some common questions that we get. So there's another means to maybe share some questions that you might have, or maybe some design strategies. We'll do some postings out there. And last little button here is the online help. So one thing I want to circle back to as a further example to the online help was when I briefly went to the line set, or I could be anywhere in the product, like in my column or my tree or the report or etc. Within any screen that you're in, I can still go to the home ribbon and to the online help, but a shortcut for that is the F1 button. And the F1 button, which again is a shortcut for the online help, I call that our context sensitive help. So once I click F1 button, it knew immediately I was in the line set area, and then I could maybe see some additional information like there was perhaps a expanded segments that Derek talked about today. And then there might be some related topics, or maybe I want to go back. Okay, so there's just a little plug for those 3 items. All right, so as I wrap up today, again, a big thank you for joining us today. I'm going to look one more time since I have to bounce to a second or third screen for the questions just to see in case any came in. Otherwise, I'll say have a great rest of your afternoon. Maybe share this recording with others. It'll be out on our website maybe within the next 3 to 4 days. Otherwise, hope to see you next week at our semi-annual user forum. Have a nice day.